Okay, let's start ICE today. So first of all, we'll understand what's basically the requirement of ICE, what is ICE, right? Any one of you have idea what is ICE and what is the use of ICE? Has anyone worked with the ICE right now in this group? Okay, Situl is there. Hmm. Tell me, what is the purpose of ICE? It's Identity Service Engine. That's correct. We know the full form. But tell me, what's the use of ICE?
It acts like a AAA server.
Yeah, it's a AAA server. More, it's more than a AAA server. But basic, the main functionality is AAA, right? To access the network, correct? User access. Okay, good. For network administration and device administration, correct? Access control, very good. Okay, so somehow you guys have an idea what's basically ICE. Okay, see guys, before ICE came into a picture, there was two different servers as a AAA. Who has idea what are those two servers? One is ICE and another was, what was the previous server which was new, the first of all introduced, later on ICE was introduced, correct? It was ACS. So ACS was the first server which was introduced, not ICE. ICE was later on introduced. Okay. So ACS was the first server which was basically introduced, and this server ACS supported two different protocols, TACAX plus, and it supported Radius protocol, right? And this ACS server was outdated from the market, right? The end of life has completely ended by 2020 October. This 2020 October, the entire life cycle of ACS has been completely ended. Let me show you if I have that cycle chart. uh, in a version 5 itself, it was no more. Okay. ACS. I don't think I have. It was a long back ago. Okay, here I have. You can see this was a first AAA server which was basically introduced, and you can see end of life notice was given by Cisco, and these were the notice details. These were the end of life chart given. The last version which was introduced for ACS was 5.8, and the end of sale was in August 2017. End of software maintenance was given for August 2018, and end of the support was ended by 2020. So in between, Cisco had given an offer to all those clients who were having the ACS. They were having the offer, exchange your ACS box, you'll get discount to buy ICE box. So now they are upgrading and only working with ICE server. Actually, in a market, there was a confusion when ICE came into a picture, right? So they had to choose. The client was confused either to buy a ACS or to buy the ICE, because they introduced two different AAA servers in the market, and both had different functionalities. They had different features. They had a common features also, and they had the different features as well. So the clients in the market were confused what to do and what to go with. Either to go with ACS or to go with the ICE. Which one is the good one? Later on, the feature wise, the ICE upgradation was very much done. It was on roadmap, but the ACS upgradations, everything was stopped. And the Cisco completely focused on the ICE platform itself. Okay. It's a Linux based operating system, and ACS was also a Linux based only, right? They have customized it. Now, the ICE, they started upgrading it. Later on, they stopped the complete support for the ACS, and we don't have the ACS anymore in the market. So I was just telling you the history that we had two AAA servers in our market earlier. Now in a market, you are not going to find ACS anymore. Do not learn about the ACS. No need to learn the ACS with the market perspective also. No need to learn it for examination perspective also. Now it's a history. The present device which we are going to work and which is a highly demanded in the market is ICE. It's a highly demanded, guys. If you guys know ICE very well, for sure you can grab the good opportunities and good packages also. Only you need to design yourself. You need to decorate yourself with little bit firewall concepts. And if you have the specialization with the ICE, for sure you'll have the good demand in the market. You can grab good opportunities. So this is one of the best product of your Cisco ICE. I mean, like the Cisco. It's not like that Cisco only has such kind of device. Like the other vendors also has such kind of device. Like FortiGate has the Forti Authenticator type of device. How many of you are aware of that Forti Authenticator? So FortiGate also has such type of device. Okay. So it's not like ICE only has the device. I mean, like Cisco only has the device. But Cisco ICE is one of the best device right now. They are including very much, they are including too much features inside that. Some of the features that we can understand, like why do we need the ICE, then we can go through this particular chart. So understand the business objective. What is the business trying to accomplish with the ICE? So you can see the assist visibility, access control, guest access, BYOD, segmentation of your network, context exchange, threat control, device admin. These all are the purpose of your ICE. So whenever in the big, the business oriented, if I see in the terms of business, if I check what is ICE used for, then these all are the current features present on your ICE. Right. So we need a ICE for all these particular features. Now what these features are, the explanations are here itself. Now you can see access control and you can see device admin, right? So the first thing that we need to focus into is the access control and the device admin. If you understand these two things, after these two things, all the other things you can add into ICE. Let's say assist visibility or guest access or BYOD or segmentation or the context or the threat, all those things will come. If you understand these two things, then it will be easier for you to understand all the other features. So let's say if you guys are going for the interview perspective, and if they ask you why do we need the ICE, then I want you guys to tell all these functionalities. These are the features for which the current ICE is used, right? Now, why did I tell you about the access control and the device admin? Let's understand these two things in a well manner. Now, very first thing, guys, please turn off your mic. When I talk about the ICE, two major thing comes into a picture. Let's say we have a ICE. ICE has two major things. One is your device administration, another is a network administration. So these are the two major things that you need to understand: device administration and the network administration. These are the two major purposes. Now after this only the other thing comes. Either it is the assist visibility, or it's the guest access, or the BYOD, or it's a segmentation, or it's a context exchange, or it's a threat control, anything, right? So first thing that you need to understand is these two types of accesses that are basically controlled by your eyes. So device administration and the network administration. So we are basically going to focus on these two characteristics first of all on the eyes. And after that only the other things parallelly it will come into a picture. Okay. So tell me guys, how many of you are aware of this? What's a network administration? See, this functionality was present on ACS also. ACS was also known for device administration and the network administration. But additionally, all these features, what you see here, let's say I want to see like BYOD, I want to see like context exchange, threat control. These advanced features was not present with your ACS. This everything was not present, right? So now the asset visibility, see, these things were not actually present with your ACS. The advanced guest access management and all, those things were not basically upgraded by your ACS. So ACS is no more in the picture now. We'll not talk about the ACS because it's not at all existing in your market now. Now, let's talk about the device administration and the network administration first of all, and slowly we'll come into the other topics that we have to understand on the ICE. So what's a network administration and the device administration? Tell me guys, who can give me some points on this? Tell me. Anyone? Okay, let me tell you. Accessing network after authentication. Okay, accessing network devices after authentication. Okay, so let me elaborate this thing. Okay, before I start about the network administration and the network, the device administration, I mean like device administration and the network administration, I'll tell you about the ICE version. Let me compare with some ICE versions. Earlier, ICE was introduced with 1.0 version and 1.0 version supported only a single protocol, that was Radius, right? And Radius was only a single protocol supported by your ICE device earlier. And that time ACS was also in a market. ACS supported both the protocols. It supported Radius and TACAX. See, there is a difference between a TACAX and the TACAX Plus, guys. Earlier, when initially Cisco introduced a TACAX, it was a Cisco proprietary, and later on they introduced a TACAX Plus. So first they introduced a TACAX. It was only a TACAX. It was not TACAX Plus. Later on they called it as a TACAX Plus because there is a reason. So first of all, let's understand about the version and the history, why ICE came into a picture, what was lagging with the ICE, and why ACS was still used. Now why ACS is not used, I'll give you all these reasons right now. ACS from beginning, it was supporting both the protocols, but ICE was supporting only a single protocol. Now, after that, they introduced 1.1, 1.2, it came up with 1.3 version, it came up with 1.4 version. So these were the versions which were only working with the radius protocol. Later on, they introduced, in 2015, they introduced the 2.0 version. This was the first version which supported both the protocols, radius and TACAX. Plus, it included, they included both the protocols in a same device. Now, till ICE was working with the 1.4 version, there was a demand of ACS in the market because it was supporting both the protocols like TACAX. And this device administration part which you see was basically supported by TACAX protocol, not by your radius. See, it was supported by radius, but when it comes to advanced level of the device administration, like centralized command authorization and all, those things were not supported till uh, till the with the privilege labels. It depends on the privilege labels also, right? Now till exec level authorization, I hope you guys might have heard about two types of authorization methods. Exec level, I hope in the routers you guys have heard about this, right? Exec level authorization. How many of you are not aware of this authorization, exec level authorization? Right. In a router and the switches, in your routing and switching, you might have heard about the exec level authorization. Till exec level authorization, your radius and TACAX both are responsible. You can do it. But when it comes to the centralized command level authorization, this was not basically possible with the radius protocol because there is a technical difference between the radius and the TACAX. Now, what's that technical difference that we'll understand further, but currently I'm trying to make you understand that why both the servers were in the market earlier. Now, this was the major reason that till 1.4 version, I supported only radius. It didn't support the TACAX. The TACAX had the advantage that it support, the ACS had the advantage that it supported the TACAX. It didn't support the, radius and TACAX both were supported with the ACS, but not supported with the ICE. So due to this advantage and disadvantage kind of, the differences between the servers, the client were confused and they had to work with both the servers, right? Exec level authorization, ICE was fine with this exec level authorization, but when it comes to the command level authorization, now what's the command level authorization? You might have some confusion on this. Later on, I'll explain you what's the command level authorization. Right now, just understand what is command level author means. There was a difference in the authorization. Also, two types of authorizations, exec level and the command level. Later on this practicals, we are going to see what's the exec level authorization, what's the command level authorization, all those stuff we are going to see very practically. At that time, your concept will be fully clear, like what's basically the difference between the exec level and the command level. In device administration, we'll see all this part, right? Right now, just understand these were the advantages and the disadvantages for which we didn't use the ACS. Further, we went for the ICE, or why ACS and ICE both were used. So till 1.4 version, we had to use a ACS also if I was working with the TACAX. So there was both the servers in the market. Later on, what happened when ICE introduced into 2015, when the ICE introduced both the protocols, radius and the TACAX, after that, there was everything what your ACS could do with the ICE. ICE was now having everything what your ACS was having. But your ACS was not having all the things what your ICE was having, right? The new advantages, new features which were added, those were not present with the ACS. Like posture validation was there, profiling was there, central wave authentication was there. So there are few things that I'll talk. What are the major features with the ICE which are not present with the ACS? I'll tell you the differences. But you know, with the 2.0 version in a 2015, when Cisco came up with the 2.0 version, from this point, ACS went from the market and Cisco introduced the end of life for the ACS. In 2015 itself, they introduced. And in 2020, it's completely ended. So understand, when Cisco or any company has to remove, or they have to give the notice for any end of life for any kind of device, till 5 years you'll have the time. So that's basically the process. So after 5 years of the notice, ACS is completely gone. Now we are into ICE. So currently 2.0 was not so much stable, but 2.1 was a stable version. And this was the version which was asked in your CCIE security version 5. Now in CCIE security version 6, you are getting 2.4. So that's your CCIE security version 6 recommended version. So if you guys are aware of 2.4 version of the ICE, there is a difference between the 2.0, 2.1 and the 2.4 version, guys. The way to define the policies and all those things has been changed, right? So, you know, the things has little bit changed over here based on the versions. You know, if you compare with 1.0 version to 1.4, lots of changes are there. Similarly, from 2.0 to 2.4, lots of changes are there. So currently who have worked with the previous version 2.1 will get confused how to create the policies and all. It was little bit simple over here to create the policies like authentication policy, authorization policies. Those things has been completely changed, but the meaning is same. But the meaning is still same, but the way of deploying the policies and all has been completely changed with the 2.4 version. So those who were stick to previous versions, or those who are working with 2.2, 2.3 and all, please leave it. That will not work out. You guys have to start working with 2.4 if you guys want to clear your examination. So this is the version that you guys have to work with. But once you talk about the market version, currently market is running with which version? Then it's 2.7, I guess, currently. If I am not wrong, we can check it. Okay, so Cisco software, you guys can go. Here you can choose ICE. So it's your identity service engine. Okay, identity service engine software version. Let's see. Currently you guys can see all releases over here. Okay, you can see the current latest release over here. This is 2.7. Now I clicked on a software version over here. This software does not mean that I'm talking about the operating system. No, it's not like that, guys. It's about, see, this is 2.7 version of the operating system, that's fine, but this software which I selected over here, it does not mean that I'm talking about the operating system. It's all about that this operating system will be deployed on the virtual appliance. There is a difference between the software, the operating system, and the virtual appliance. So you can see here, these are the virtual appliances present for 2.7 version. These are the virtual appliances for the 2.7 version. Now you can see 2.7 OVF. This is the persona called PSN and the PX grid persona. Again, we have the another persona with the different size. Now, what is persona and all those things we are going to discuss. There are many more things to come up right now. So you can see you have the separate personas also, and you have the complete package also, means standalone means standalone. So you'll find the complete packaged. You can see the full installation over here, and this full installation basically covers everything. It has all the personas included together. But if you want only having the certain personas, you can see like OVF file only for PAN and MNT. So you have the separate deployment for the PAN and MNT over here, right? But these things you can do with the full version also. If I don't want the other personas are just like a services, guys. Okay, it's like a services that are present on your, like major services, and under that major services we have the other sub services. So later on we'll understand. So right now just I'm telling you these are the versions. So what you need to understand here, according to the market, 2.7 version is required. But right now I want to recommend you guys to practice with 2.7. Do not practice with 2.7. To clear your examination, only recommend 2.4 version. This is only the recommended version, not the other one. So practice only with the 2.4 version. Now, right now we had seen, while searching for the software, here you can see two things are there. When I searched identity service engine, you can see here identity service engine is also there, and identity service engine sorry guys, identity service engine software is also there. Guys, just 2 minutes, I'll be back. Okay, so you guys can see here ICE. You can see different things with the ICE, right? So majorly you need to see with the ICE and the ICE software, your two things you can see. So what's basically the difference over here is ICE is present in two variants. Okay, you have a ICE hardware and you have the software. So two things you have. ICE is present in the hardware, and it is also present with the software. So software appliance, and also you have the hardware appliance, right? So which one is the recommended one? See, both are there. Whatever you want, you can use it as per your requirement. Now, so for the software appliances also, see, for the hardware and the software also, what we have for the software, we have the different platforms. Like we can use UCS server. See, currently Cisco also has introduced a specific hardware on top of which you can install the software. I exactly don't remember that hardware name. Situl, do you remember that hardware name, which is basically introduced only for the ICE? It's a specific type of hardware they have introduced only for the ICE. Okay.
Yeah, I think SNS box only.
Yeah, correct. SNS, right?
Yes.
That's a box that they have introduced. I guess I had seen a long back ago. I don't remember that. So that's basically a hardware like a UCS server we have. They have introduced currently for the ICE itself. Okay. So they have multiple supporting characteristics with your ICE. Okay. And we have a dedicated hardware also for the Cisco ICE. So whatever you prefer, you can take it. But most of the time you can see the software version used and deployed over the UCS or the SNS. That's the SNS, I guess recently in 2019 they introduced, I guess. Okay, it was on the way. I mean, like they were working on the SNS, I guess. Now currently we guys are going to work with the software guys, and we are going to deploy it under the UCS or any servers. We'll be deploying on the ESXi server. The good part of the software is like we can also deploy it on the VMware. It can be deployed on the VMware also. Okay. So either ESXi or the VMware, whatever you want, you can deploy it and you can work. So we'll see this. Currently, I don't have an image for the EVNG, but I found those commands that you can use to convert your image from ISO image to EVNG, but it is taking lots of time. But somehow, rather than converting it to the some QCOW file, we can directly make our ISO image to work with EVNG. I found something the solutions. Later on, I'll show you guys how to do that. So you guys can also use the ISO image directly with your EVNG. Okay. So currently in your examination, you guys will be getting the software itself, not the hardware. And by default, your software gives you a 90 days of, it gives you a 120 days of a trial period. Not all the things will work, but yes, whatever the things are recommended in your examinations, those things will work with 120 days of the trial period, whatever we have. Apart from the trial period, nothing you're going to get in the examination for sure, right? So these are the things that we need to understand. These were the basic things, introductions. Now let's come back to the device administration and the network administration. So let's talk about the network administration first of all, then we'll come to the device administration. In the network administration, tell me guys, how many ways you know that I can connect to the network? How many ways do you know to connect into a network? Network administration is all about how to connect to the network. So tell me, how many ways do you know to connect to the network? Okay. Abhishek, you told console auxiliary VPN. Okay. What is console? What is auxiliary? It's a wired connection, right? I'm not talking about the console and auxiliary, but still, this console and auxiliary gives you a physical access, right? It's not for the remote access or anything else, right? See, when I want to connect to my network, it's not like I have to be physically connected only, right? And it's not about the console access. It's not about how to manage the device. Okay. So it's like, how do I connect? Let's say if I go with my PC into a network, then how many ways do I find to connect to my network? So I'll have three different ways. I'll have wired, I'll have wireless, and I'll have VPN. These are the three different methods that we use to connect our network. Apart from this, do you guys know any other method to connect to your network, guys? Take any type of, you even take the console also. Okay, I'm giving you about the console also. Do you think the console access also is apart from these three types? Even the console auxiliary, anything, is that apart from the wired connection or the wireless and the VPN? No, right? Everything comes under these three types only. So currently we have either we have the wired connection, or we have the wireless connection, or we have the VPN connection. So these are the three different ways to connect into your network. Now, while connecting through the wired connection, again, how many methods you might get, that's a different thing again. Right, again, connecting with the wireless, how many method you can get, that's a different thing. And VPN is a VPN, it's a wireless connection, it's a virtual connection that we already know, right? So apart from the VPN, let's discuss about what would be with the wired connection and with the wireless connection. How many things do we get? In a wired connection, you will get dot one X connection, guys. Wired dot one, correct. Dot one MAV, you guys are going to get. So we'll take wired dot one X. It's a dot one X. What do you mean by dot one X? What does dot one indicate for? What is dot one X indication? Identity based. Even MAV has the identity, right? So what type of identity you're talking about? I would say even the MAV has the identity. So what type of identity you are talking about? User, correct. So tell it like this. Now, if I use a username and the password, guys, in a dot one X, if I talk about username and the password, so it's all about wired dot one X. When I use a username and the password, right, to get into the network, whenever, let's say, if I am trying to connect to any network and it is prompting me for a username and the password, right? Now, listen very carefully. I'm talking about the wired connection. It's all about wired connection. So when I'm trying to connect through the wired connection, I'm getting the username and the password prompted. Now that's basically the dot one X. When I have to define myself, I need to tell who am I. I need to authenticate myself, then only I'll get authorized, right? So that is the first thing that you need to understand. So wired dot one X. Now let's say, for example, what are the devices that you know on which I can use the username and the password, guys? Tell me a few examples of the devices that you can use to authenticate your network by the help of username and the password. Let's give some example like the devices. Let's say you have your PC, you have your lappy, you have your mobile, right? So etc type of, the devices you have on which you can assign the username and the password. So these all devices I can put under the dot one X. I can put it under the dot one X. So guys, can I say that I can connect this dot one, I can use this dot one X method also in the wireless? Even through the wireless, I can connect the username and the password. Can I tell this thing? It means dot one X can be through the wired also, and dot one X can be through the wireless also, right? Correct. It means I can use my PC, I can use my lappy, I can use my mobile phones and all. These are few examples, not all the examples. I'm just giving you few examples. So I can use these devices to connect to the wireless connections also for the dot one X username and the password, right? So what did we understand? Dot one X can be through the wired or it can be through the wireless also. Okay. Now we need to understand there are few devices. There are few devices on which we cannot use on which we cannot assign the username and the password, and it cannot be connected through the wireless also. Few examples. Let's talk about, do you guys know any devices that can't be or might not be connected. It might be or might not be, both the conditions you have. Like there might be few devices like IP phone. Good. Few examples like we have an IP phone. We have our devices like printer, right? Such type of devices, when I talk about, it can be CC cam also, no issues, right? It can be wirelessly connected, or it can be connected through the wire. But few conditions we can see, like these devices, sometimes we see they don't have the wireless connectivity. They can be connected only through the wired connection, right? And other thing what we observe, that we cannot configure the username and the password on these devices, correct? Can you configure the username and the password? Might be on the latest IP phones you might, but all the IP phones are not supporting your username and the password types, right? Mostly no. So the printers, have you seen the printer on which you're assigning the username and the passwords, guys? No, right? We don't use. So such devices, how can I connect to the network? Why do I need a control on these devices? Now, let's say, for example, you have the local area network. And in the local area network, I have multiple groups, right? I have an admin group, I have a sales group, I have a guest group, right? And there is a printer in my network. There is a printer in my network, right? If everyone gets access to this particular printer, then what will happen? Everyone can use the network, right? Now let's say, for example, here I have admin group. Here I have uh, let's say sales group, and here I have guest group, right? And they all have, if they all have an access to the printer, then what will happen, guys? If they all have an access to the printer, they'll misuse it, right? They might misuse the printer. Now this is your printer. They might misuse it. Now I want to protect this printer. I want to give an access to this printer to only particular groups. I don't want to give an access to everyone. I want this printer should be accessible only to admin, right? Now don't you think, guys, if a printer, all the ports are open, if everything is open, that also can be one vulnerable type of, the method wherein the attackers can reach into a printer, and from there they might reach to some other things. It can be anything, right? Have you heard about the attacks happening on the printer also? Such things, right? So it's all about how do you control your network devices, and how do you give an access to your network devices, such things. So I want to limit an access to this particular printer, and I want to give an access to the particular admin itself. I don't want to give an access to admin or the guests, or I don't want any attacks to be performed. So in that case, I would go with the wired connection. I'll go with the wired connection. So I'll go with a wired connection, but I cannot assign the username and the password. So the identification will happen based on the MAC address. The identification will happen on the MAC address. And any authentication that happens on the MAC address, we call it as a MAB authentication. We basically call it as a MAB authentication. What do you mean by MAB, guys? What's the full form of MAV? Any idea, anyone? Have you heard about it? What's a MAV? It's a MAC address authentication bypass. It's a MAC address authentication bypass. Abhishek, anything? Media access based. Uh, it's a MAC address authentication bypass. Now I'm saying MAC address authentication bypass. What does that mean? Again, you might have a question in your mind. Let me give you short answers over here. Now let's say you are saying MAC address authentication bypass. Now by reading this term, what you might think, guys, tell me what you might think by looking at this particular, the full form, MAC address authentication bypass. No, there is a term called bypass, right? But there is a term called bypass, right? Okay, let me tell you. Guys, don't go on the complete, don't make it as a single word, right? Let's break it into two parts and let's understand. Authenticate based on the MAC address. That's basically MAC address authentication. And separate the bypass. Bypass means bypass your .1x. I'm bypassing .1x and doing the authentication based on the username and the password. So bypass username and the password and authenticate based on the MAC address. That's basically your .1x authentication. That's basically your MAB authentication, right? So on these devices like IP phone or the printer, I'm not going to connect, or I'm not going to use I'm going to connect with the wired connection, right? Now you might find some of the devices, right? You might find some of the devices having the wireless connections also, right? You might find some CC cameras, right? You might find CCTV cameras, right? You might find some other devices connecting through the wireless connections, right? Now, even those devices does not have an username and the password configuration. So the MAV is also present with your wireless. So what do I say? MAV is also present with wireless. So what do I say, guys? We'll say wireless MAV. We'll say wireless MAV is also present. Wireless MAV is also present for devices like a CCTV. So guys, overall what you have to understand, that device authentication, your network administration, can be done through wired .1x, or it can be wired MAV, or it can be wireless .1x, or it can be wireless MAV. Both the things are possible. Guys, did you understand this part? Everyone? So your network administrations can be done through wired .1x or MAV, or it can be wireless .1x or MAV. So these are the ways that we can use to connect to our network, and the other thing was VPN. So this is how we understand the network administration happens. So whenever we want to connect to our network, either I'll use a wired connection, or you will use a wireless connection, or I'll use the VPN connection. So when I try to enter to the network through all these methods, then what policies can be applied? From here the every story gets started. So now there will be a wired protocols, there will be a wireless protocols, I mean like map protocols, wireless protocols, right? Multiple things will come into a picture now. So from here, the major story gets started. This was one of the part that we understood today, guys, for which we are using the ICE. There are many more things that we are going to discuss, okay? Today is your first class, so I'll not be going more with this, okay? Tomorrow onwards, we'll have more classes, okay? If anyone is missing, they can catch the class and they can go through. So the next class we'll have tomorrow at the same time, okay?
Thank you, sir.